I'm J.R. Butler, co-founder and CEO of the Shift Group, and you're listening to Merchants of Change. This is a podcast about transferring the skills and behaviors we acquire as athletes and military veterans into becoming a professional salesperson. Each week, we'll introduce you to a top performer who will help us understand how they became professional merchants of change. What's up, kid? How we doing, Joelle? I'm so excited for our episode today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, JR, for having me. I'm doing great. I'm really excited about our chat, and just really grateful that you reached out and are having me on. So appreciate it. Absolutely. So for first-time listeners, I just want to give everyone a little context. Merchants of Change is a show for new salespeople and people who might be considering a career shift into sales. Our mission at Shift Group is to help elite athletes and military veterans become elite sales professionals. All of our guests are former athletes or veterans who have found their own success in sales. And what we like to do is kind of start with the sports career, get into the transition, and then we kind of finish talking about some sales nuggets and some sales advice. So going to the beginning, we ask a very intentionally broad question. When you look back at your basketball career, I'm curious to know, like, if I ask you what some of your favorite memories are, where does your mind wander off to?
Yeah, I love this question. It's an easy one for me, right? It's the locker room. It's the relationships that were built. Of course, like, winning was great, right? And I loved practicing. I loved the preparation piece of it. But really, like, where the magic happens is the relationships that are built. I still have my very best of friends are people that I've played sports with. Particularly on my college basketball team at Loyola. They're like sisters to me, and I know that I can pick up the phone and call any of them at any given time, and they'll be there, and they know that they have the same in me. So it's just that bond that you form. There's nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. You can't replicate it. I've tried. It doesn't happen. So
true. I can't tell you how common the answer to that question is the locker room, right? The camaraderie. You get to hang out with your best friends for 5 to 7 hours a day. It's incredible. When you think of some of your favorite teammates at Loyola, what are some of their, like, shared traits and characteristics that come to mind for those favorite ones?
Yeah, I love the fact that everybody's an individual, right, on a team. And so outside of the game or the practice, everybody's their own individual self. And so I appreciate everybody's individual attributes and traits. What I always really like in a teammate is just how are you on the court, right? Like, are you someone who's going to be pushing everyone else? Are you someone who's going to set the bar or raise the bar higher, have high standards for yourself and for your teammates. And so, I think we had that on my team, but those are the teammates that I want. I want somebody who's pushing me, right? Like, we're all going to get along, and we'll have our little spats here and there too off the court, and everybody's an individual, but the ones that I truly think back and just have the most respect for is, like, who are the ones who were just pushing me? And that's the ones that, like, I'll never forget that, because I still think back on that, and it still drives me today in my professional world.
Yeah, I was just going to say that nature, that characteristic translates to great teammates in business too, I think, because you want, my dad always used to say, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you want to be around people that are better than you and trying to make you better. Yeah. How do you think your college teammates would describe you, Joelle?
Intense. I still get that word a lot. which is crazy because I'm warm and I'm friendly, but I get it. I have an intensity about me. I firmly believe that like limitations exist in the mind, right? And so how do you push past, any type of mental limitation that you're giving yourself? And I try to be that for my teammates. I try to be that for family, friends, my team that I manage now at Stryker. It's, and so maybe it does come off as a bit intense, but really the intention is like, let's get better and let's push ourselves past like our mental limitations. And so, I think that word would probably be a consistent one if I pulled the audience.
Life is too short not to be intense, right? Like I'm a big believer that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're intense on the court, there's no reason you won't be intense in the workplace too. And that's a positive, not a negative in my mind. Looking back at your sports career, what would you say you're most proud of?
I mean, kind of an interesting story. So at Loyola, my first 2 years, we were probably a bit too focused on the social aspect of just being in college. And, New Orleans is obviously a bit of a party city. So a lot of teammates, our culture was just kind of having fun, a little too much fun. And so my freshman and sophomore year, that was the culture. And going into my junior year, everyone except for 3 of us, quit. So going into my junior year, we didn't even know if we were going to have a program. And I considered leaving. I considered transferring out and going someplace else to finish my career elsewhere. But my coach, sat the 3 of us down and asked us to stick with her. And, we did just that. And we made a pact, the 3 of us who were left then and there, that, whoever came in, they were going to think that our program was, just nothing but business. Like we were there to play basketball and we were going to turn it around. And we did. I mean, we went from, I think my freshman and sophomore year was like a 5-win season and like a 4-win season. And that's hard. Right. And we didn't want that anymore. We didn't want that any longer for the program or for ourselves. And we turned it around and made it to the national tournament for the first time in school history, my senior year. And I mean, now the program's one of the top 5 every year. So,
I was going to say, yeah.
I feel like we left a legacy, which I'm very proud of. It's not any individual game or any individual accomplishment that I can look back and say I'm really proud of that. It's the fact that we just dug in and we changed the culture and left that legacy.
That is so cool. I did not realize that. That's awesome to be part of a turnaround like that and create a long-term legacy. Like you said, they're a wagon now. So that is so cool.
Yeah.
And I think, it sounds like your coach was a big part of that as well. Right. And
Absolutely.
I grew up, with a dad as a coach, and I've always, some of the best life lessons I've ever had are from coaches I've had in my life, whether that was in sports or even after. Right. Do you have like a favorite coach and a favorite lesson that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, my college coach, Doobie Plaisance, was more than just a coach on the court. She cared a lot about us as people, and she would always talk about, and I still like hear her saying this today, how what we were doing was going to make us better people, right? Not just better athletes. The leaving it out on the court and just pushing past those mental limitations, that was going to make us better wives, sisters, daughters, mothers, professionals one day. And I didn't understand it in the moment. I heard it, but I didn't get it. And now that I am a wife and a mom and a professional, and I have a team right now, currently I have, 17 heads under me. I get it now. I completely understand that the work that I put in then really has had a transformative impression on my life and has made me better in every aspect of who I am. And honestly, I can't thank her enough for that, for just investing in us as people and not just as athletes. And it's the way that I approach my team now. I care about them as human beings, and I try to connect with them as human beings, and I try to make them better, not just at their jobs, but in every aspect of their lives. So it's something that, I'll never forget, and that I'll keep with me forever.
That's so cool. We have we work with athletic institutions and directly with teams. And one of the qualifying questions I ask coaches, what do you think your job is in these, young men's and women's lives? And the right answer is to make them better people, right? Like it's not just to win. It's not just to make sure they graduate, but are they going to be contributing members of society that aren't entitled and understand that they need to work hard and they're willing to put in the work? And, there's people, one thing that I think people discount about hiring athletes is the exposure they get at a young age to really good leadership. We're very fortunate to play sports at a high level because that means you get shown what great leadership looks like, and it's life-changing, like you just said.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great point about getting exposure to great leadership.
Yeah.
I had a manager tell me one time, I apologize if I'm not like the other leaders, the other managers that you've had or something to that tune. And I said, I've played sports since I was 5 years old. I've had every type of leader that you could ever imagine. No, there's no apologies. No, I've had it all. And, I can kind of work through any of it. So yeah, I agree. I think you're just exposed to so many different leadership styles, and it definitely strengthens the person for sure.
So I imagine you're playing college basketball, you make the national tournament, you're celebrating on Bourbon Street, and you can't wait to start your sales career, right? That's how it worked.
Yeah. Exactly.
In all honesty though, how'd you end up in sales? Were there other career paths that you explored in your transition?
Yes, absolutely. I did explore others. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I graduated. I thought, for a while there, I thought I was gonna coach. I was so passionate and still am about the sport of basketball, and so I really thought I'm gonna be a coach. And when the time came, I decided I didn't want to, and it was an interesting, I guess, decision. But when I really reflected on what it would mean to be a coach, and I thought about my college coach, and she has 2 children, and she missed out, and they were and still are incredible athletes. Both of them have played professionally, but she had to miss out on a lot because we were on the road, and I didn't want that. Right. So I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know quite what I did want. I knew I needed to kind of satiate that aspect of me that just was such a competitor. I didn't know where to find it. I was like, where do I find this outside of the game? And so I just kind of started in a career, just whatever.
Yeah, totally.
I'll find my way. Let me just get started.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And, I've been in the construction world. I've been in pharmaceutical sales. Now I'm in med device sales and have gone into a management role where I'm leading people. And, I've just had to kind of trust myself and, continue to develop and explore what it is that will make me make my cup full, and so that's kind of how I've gotten here. But yeah, there were along that journey in construction, there were aspects of the job where I was selling, and more people kept telling me, you need to get into sales. You'd be great at sales. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should. And so I did. And that's how, that's really, I guess, why I got into it. It was a little bit blind and, not necessarily
incredibly thoughtful, I guess, but I was like, let me give this a try. People keep saying that I should.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's cool, like full circle, becoming a leader in business it's you're coaching now, right? And it's about the same size as a basketball team. So, it's kind of cool that happened. Now, in that transition from construction into like full blown title of a salesperson, was it like an immediate fit, or were there some early bumps when you look back at it?
Yeah, I mean, there should be early bumps, right? Like I'm learning. I always tell my team, if you're not screwing up, then you're doing something wrong. So yeah, there were probably some early bumps, and honestly, just getting into pharmaceutical sales, I kind of knew right away, like, all right, I feel like I'm getting closer to what I'm looking for, but this isn't quite it yet either. Mostly because there is a little bit of a difference between pharmaceutical sales and med device sales. Just med device is a bit more tangible. When I sell something today, I see it reflected in my number. And so I know that what I am doing right now, I can see the fruits of that labor. Pharma is a little bit different just because of the way that scripts are reported and whatnot. But so yeah, like a little bit bumpy at first, just because I was like, I think I'm getting close, but I'm not there yet. And then I got into med device and I was like, this is it. Like this is the one.
If you went back, do you feel like you would have gone right to med device, or do you feel like you learned some stuff in pharma that's helped you in med device?
I'm a no look back person.
Perfect.
So, I think everything, my journey is one that I have zero regrets about. So I think that, I landed in pharma first for a reason, and I met some incredible people along the way that I still keep in contact with. And so no, I mean, I think that my journey is perfect.
The 3 industry like transition that's not easy. We get a lot of folks that come to us. They're not like right out of sports or right out of service. They've gone and they've worked in education or construction or some other industry, and they're kind of switching into a new industry, or they sold in another industry and they're excited about, the opportunity in med or tech. Any like kind of nuggets of wisdom about that, like that career, that specific industry transition that you think would be helpful for those people? Like how to kind of think about accelerating the ramp time and when you move into that different industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'll answer this in maybe 2 parts. So first things first, I just think that like never sell yourself short. Just because you didn't come from, a sales background doesn't mean you can't excel in sales, right? So like understand your value as a person and your commitment to becoming great, and don't psych yourself out. Like, oh, I don't think I can do this because I don't have. You're going to get a million people tell you that you need experience, you need prior experience. Find the one who's going to take a chance on you, and keep going until you find that person, because someone will. If you have those intangibles and if you're committed to get in, like just stay committed to it and find the person who's going to tell you, you know what, you don't have the experience, but I'm going to take a chance on you because I like what I see. So I'll say that. And then as far as the ramp time, I mean, again, it's about digging in and being committed to it, and just utilize your resources around you. If you ask someone for help, they will help you. I learned that in construction. I mean, I'm 5'2" female in construction, walking into a job trailer with a hard hat. I don't know anything going in, but if you ask for help, people will help you. And I mean, we're in an industry where, you have a lot of people with a lot of experience, and everybody's typically willing to help. So if your ramp up is a long time, I'm going to say it's your fault, right? Because you just didn't reach out enough and you didn't ask enough. Like, you can't live on an island in this world. You have to reach out, and there are so many people willing to help. So the ramp up's just about reaching out, expanding your network, and asking for help.
it's just like sports. Like you need to become like a student of the game, right? Like, I always use the example of like, we used to watch this VHS when we were little, and I saw how Wayne Gretzky taped his socks when he was getting dressed to play. That's how I tape my socks. Like, okay, he's the great one. I want to be the great one. So I'm going to tape like little details like that you can pick up from all these people you're surrounded by, and just become a student of the game and get better every day. It's the difference between success and mediocrity, in my opinion, is if you're not willing to, if you don't approach it like with that thirst for knowledge, like it's going to be a long road.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, like, if you had a Loyola basketball player approach you and was like, hey, I heard like we hear this a lot. I hear med device people make a lot of money, which is true. But, there's other places where you can make a lot of money too. What are some like qualifying questions that you're asking them for them to like kind of think, is this really, maybe it's sales, but maybe it's not med device? Like, what are some qualifying questions you think about to really consider whether med device is a good fit?
Yeah, I think if someone asked me about the industry and they were interested, my question would just be why, and then I'd sit back and listen, right? Because
Totally.
If you don't know your why, especially in sales, you're not going to survive. This is not an easy job. It's not. Like it's a beatdown. There are some highs. It's very much like athletics. The highs are highs, the lows are lows, right? So you have to understand why you want to get in the first place. And if somebody says it's because you can make good money, I'm going to go really deep. I'm going to go in on that one, right?
Totally.
Because that's not the right reason to be in it. It's a good reason, right? It's a good part of, the part of your why. If you want to make good money, yeah, you can do it here for sure. But there's so many things that in order to even get to the good money that you have to get through and work through. And man, if you're not in it for the right reasons, then you won't make it. So I think really just understanding someone's why is I would listen and then kind of take it from there. But that's the number one.
Absolutely. That's a question we require every kid to answer and every company to see their answer. Cause that's the only question I would ask people when I interviewed them for entry-level sales. I'm like, why do you want to do this? Yeah. And why do you think you're going to be good at it? Right. Like it shows whether they're self-aware or not, and whether they really understand what they're signing up for. Right. I have a lot of friends in med device and they love it. They're passionate about it. And they made a lot of sacrifices to get to where they are today, right? There's the on-calls, the traveling. Like, if you don't have a good why, that's going to be a struggle, right? Curious to get your take on this. You work at I would argue, probably the most well-known medical device company in the world. But if you had a kid come to you, that same person, you like their answer of why, and they say, what type of company should I be looking for? Like, what are some of the characteristics of a great place to start your medical device career, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I think really, I would say just get your foot in the door first, right? Like,
I agree.
Once your foot is in the door, you can kind of explore from there. And I'm not advocating being a job hopper necessarily. I'm just saying, get your foot in the door. Because it's a lot easier to land at one of the top companies once you've had some experience. If you can get your foot in the door at a top company, great. That's outstanding. Do that. And there are so many opportunities at top companies to just get your foot in the door. But if you're struggling with that and you have an opportunity that this isn't my one, but I know that, I'm getting the offer. Yes, take it. Get your foot in the door. 100%. Outside of that, I mean, I would say definitely you want, managers make or break you. Even at top companies, there can be managers that just aren't necessarily invested in their people the way that you would want someone to be invested in you and your future and your growth. So you should be interviewing a manager just as much as they're interviewing you, because the last thing you want is to get your foot in the door and then burn out within, a couple of months because you just had a terrible experience. So, I mean, I think that that's a really big part of it too, is just making sure that the person who's hiring you is going to be invested in your development, invested in you as a person, and, and wanting to see you grow in your career.
I couldn't agree more. It's like that foundational leadership that you get in your first job is critical.
Yeah.
But in certain industries, it does like get in the door, and then you can kind of figure out like what type of, thing that you really want to look for, right? Maybe it's one of the biggest and best. Maybe you like a smaller, earlier stage company, who knows? But you got to get in, get the foundational stuff down, and then figure that out. We talk a lot, obviously, about, that student of the game thing, but continuing to be a student of the game, right? I'm 60 plus quarters of sales, and I learn something new every day. One thing that's always intrigued me, because I had hockey teammates that are in med device, and I love the guys. They're really smart, but I pictured them as like 24-year-olds when I was 24 being in front of doctors. And like, you got these guys and girls who went to school for so long, they know so much. How does a young person like that, what can they do to like get caught up enough to like add value in that room with their doctors that they're working with?
Yeah. I mean, look, you're going to say some things that you look back on in your career later and go, I can't believe I said that. And like, why did that doctor even speak to me ever again after saying something just so remedial, right? And so again, it's like, you got to be okay with that. Like you've got to be okay with the fact that you're going to screw up. You're not going to hit it out of the park every single time, but, just as far as just getting to a place where you feel ready enough, like don't wait until things are perfect. You're not going to feel ready enough, but maybe go in and establish some relationships with some doctors that you feel comfortable with, that, feels more like a friend, and kind of practice some of your talk tracks on them. And then you can kind of branch out and feel more confident going in, talking to one of those doctors who just isn't warm and fuzzy and maybe like cares really a lot about like the clinical aspect of things, and you have to be super buttoned up. But there are certainly some doctors out there that you can connect with, and that feels more like a friend. And I would say just kind of lean on them at first and stay a little comfortable with them, and then branch out from there. But yeah, I mean, there's never a time you're truly going to feel ready, right? Like,
right.
Just put your big boy, big girl pants on and be willing to screw up. It's okay.
Yep, absolutely. Failure isn't fatal. That's for sure.
That's right.
So my vision, the reason I actually named the company Shift Group instead of just Shift, was the vision was always like moving horizontally from like my background in tech and moving into medical device and pharma. And we accelerated it quicker than I had planned, mainly because we've seen like a complete bloodbath of layoffs in tech and in software. It feels like to me that both medical spaces, pharma and med device, are a little bit more resistant to recessions. Would you agree with that? And why do you think that is?
I don't know. That's a tough one for me to maybe comment on. I think that in my experience, as through COVID and now kind of some of the economic situation that we're facing right now, like I've seen the ability to kind of be a little bit more, I guess, nimble in these situations, just because we are so large. Right. I don't know what that looks like from a smaller company standpoint. I mean, I guess my answer there is I don't have a great one.
Yeah.
I feel like, from my lens, what I've seen here where I'm at is that we're able to just kind of, maybe ask our customers, like do a little bit of a price increase here, or, maybe cut out some expenses, hiring freezes, travel bans. Like we're able to do things like that can kind of free up some cash flow, and make us a bit more resistant to the economic state that we're in. But from a small company standpoint in med device or pharma, I don't know what that looks like. Do they have that ability? I don't know. So I don't know if if I see it one way because I'm at a larger company, or if it's because I'm med sales. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think especially in markets like this, I think ultimately that is going to impact everybody, right? So you've got that ability to be nimble and, tweak some things of how you're selling, how you're positioning, how you're messaging. That's going to happen in every industry.
Yeah.
We like to ask folks from other industries this question. So in video games, you can go in and build your own player. If you could do that for a medical device rep, what are the skills and attributes that you're cranking up to 100 on the build your own med device rep video game?
Yeah, no, I like this. And I think about it often, right? Because I'm constantly hiring and so I know what I'm looking for. You gotta have a growth mindset. You just have to. You have to be someone who's willing to constantly develop and grow and learn and have that thirst for more, wanting to do more, be more. I read something recently just about allowing your mind to be a free agent, right? You've got to be able to just want to take more in and kind of shift where you need to. So I always look for a growth mindset. I want somebody who is a problem solver, because that's what sales is, right? You should be asking questions, listening to the answers, understanding where pain points are, and coming up with a solution for that. The solution exists in your bag. You just have to figure out where you can kind of plug and play those things in your bag, to solve the problem. But you have to be a problem solver, a grinder. I want somebody who just doesn't quit, right? You're going to get so many no's. It's going to happen. Figure out a way to get to a yes. The yes is there. You just have to figure it out. And then somebody who just has that healthy level of paranoia. Yes. When I'm interviewing, I always ask, what keeps you up at night? And if somebody tells me nothing, I sleep well, I don't want you on my team. I want the wheels turning constantly, and there's a healthy level of that. There's an unhealthy level of that. But I want somebody who feels slightly unsettled all the time, because that means that, they just have that thirst to go out and grind it out. And then of course, coachability. I know-it-alls are just not, you're not going to do well in this industry. Probably not anywhere. No one knows it all, and that's okay. And you have to be willing to raise your hand and say, I don't know it all. You have to be willing to trust the people around you who have done it before, and, who can kind of help guide you and coach you to do it in a way that is, going to be successful. So, those are the things that I care about and that I really look for.
I love the paranoia. I always call it I want someone with a pit in their stomach. Everybody loves to win. There's nobody in the world that doesn't want to ring the bell, but who's the guy or girl that wakes up with a fear of failure, right? And has and a healthy amount of that pit in your stomach every single morning, which at 40, I still wake up with every single day, even after some success. But that's the key that will drive you, though, for sure.
Yeah.
And so while you're leading your team, what are some of the core sales concepts that you work to instill in your teams in terms of the mindset of how they approach their customer relationships and the way they run their business?
Yeah, I obviously want someone who is going to be able to create a plan, right? I want to see someone's process, and I'm one who, it doesn't have to be my process. I'm not going to give you a template and say like, here's the process, go do it. I believe that everybody, can have their own, and different people with different processes can all be successful. You have to do what works for you. You have to do what makes sense for you and your market and your customers. But I want to at least see that you have a process and a plan, and that you're able to kind of work through it. Of course, be nimble. You're always going to have, to go down a like plan B, C, D, E, F. But as long as you have those things in place, I'm good with that. Like that's what I really want to see, and that's what I try to help my team develop. Also, just the ability to listen. I want, again, sales it's a conversation. It truly is a conversation. I don't mean to be to dumb it down too much, or to kind of not appreciate like the fact that it is hard and it is a grind, but it truly is about connecting with people and listening, understanding what it is that they're telling you. You can get a lot of information in a short conversation if you're just listening and asking the right questions. So that's really important. And then just the ability to think creatively. Again, you're going to get a ton of no's. What resources can you rely on? What are some things that you can do to be creative to get to that yes? That's one thing I will say about med sales is you typically have a ton of resources, right? Like there are numerous ways that you can help educate your customers, or help a customer acquire capital equipment or whatever that looks like. But you've got to reach out to those resources and pull them in and present those to your customer, and just be creative in the way that you structure deals and get to your number. So those are things that I coach my team to.
That's awesome. The second part of that, the listening skill, like I can't emphasize that enough for our audience. The first lesson I learned in sales, I like spent my first like 2 weeks, like really like knowing the product that we were selling. And my first sales call, I just puked all over the customer. And my boss, who became a really big mentor to me, pulled me in another room and he's like, JR, how many eyes do you have? Or how many ears do you have? He's like, 2. How many mouths do you have? 1. And then he said, act accordingly. Don't ever do that again. Right. Yeah. So, I love that.
We've all done that, right? We've all done that. Like you get excited, you learn the material, you're about to go in and have that first conversation and you just vomit. And again, though, you have to be willing to like look back on that, reflect and go, I can't believe I did that, and learn from it and move on and keep going in and seeing that doctor and just be persistent and stay committed to your process. And yeah, but we've all done that. That's normal, I would say, for sure. Totally. Now you shared like a big mentor you had in your college coach. Yeah. Have you had any mentors in like your career and any lessons that you learned from them, like the one I just shared that have been really important to you? Yeah, definitely. I mean, just thinking about like I talk about like reaching out, expanding your network. That's another thing too. If you don't have at least one mentor, then stop what you're doing right now and go get one. Totally. Because you need someone who can, you can sit down with on a monthly basis, whatever that looks like, that you can kind of just learn from, right? Like talk to them about what it is that you're experiencing and gain knowledge from them. Let them pass along the knowledge that they have gained over time. But yeah, I absolutely have. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've learned, I came from a startup and we were acquired. So the company that I'm at now acquired this startup that I came from, and it's a very different world, right? Very different world. But one of the first things that I did when we were acquired is I found a mentor who had started with this company, who could kind of help me navigate what it is to live in this world of a large corporation, because it's so wildly different. And I don't know that I'd still be here if I didn't have that mentor that I established early on, because it's like I said, just very different. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's very specific to me, but I learned kind of the inner workings of a large corporation by finding someone who had been there for a while. And again, like if that's not something that you have in place already, like I said, stop what you're doing right now and find someone. And I've had several people ask me to mentor them. My answer is always yes. If I ever get to a point where I don't feel like I can pour into them because I just don't have the bandwidth, I will say no, because I don't want to establish something that I can't actually give to. But my point in saying that is, if you ask someone to help you, once again, like I talked about earlier, if you ask someone to help you, they're going to help you. People want to help.
100%. 100%. So final two questions for you. We ask everybody these. We're very curious to know, like you've had a lot of success in your sales career. Can you highlight like one skill that you think has helped you achieve what you've achieved in your sales career that makes you elite?
Yes, I think,
this is a hard one.
No, and honestly, it applies to more than just sales for me too. But like, I think that for me, you hear the old adage, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. I just thrive in a really tough situation, right? Like I want it, and so it's kind of the game is tied and there's seconds left. I'm the like, give me the ball. Like, yeah. I got this, and so I think that that's kind of what has made me elite. If we'll call myself elite, then yes, it's just that ability to kind of take control in those really tough situations and just kind of say, you know what, I've got this. And that comes with a lot of preparation, right? And just, you don't have the confidence to have the ball in your hands at the end of the game if you haven't prepared prepared yourself up into that point. So, just always like honing your skills and, staying, ahead of the game. And so that when you're faced with that really tough time, you're ready to take control.
Yeah. You're ready to hit the shot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love it. So growing up, my dad used to say to me and my brothers, there's a lot of people that play hockey. There's not a lot of hockey players. And he really like instilled in us this idea of like professionalism, right? Like approaching what you do to try to be the best that you can be at it, and all the things that come with that, right? And in sports, that's nutrition, it's fitness, it's studying game tape, and I don't think it's that different for whatever career you choose. Even if you're a third grade teacher, you can be a professional third grade teacher, right? So I think the best kind of name that you can give a salesperson is this person is a pro. So for you, like what makes someone a pro as a seller?
Yeah. I think, a pro as a seller is the same as a pro as in anything. It's really just a commitment to your journey. It's, you set out in something and you stay committed to it. You make positive choices. You're disciplined. You're intentional about your choices. It's nothing's easy, right? It's never going to be easy, but you stay committed to it, and you trust the process. But yeah, I mean, I don't know any pro in anything that is ever just like, if you're someone who gives up when things get hard, you'll never get to pro status. You just won't.
Yeah. So true. It's like you're doing the hard things when the motivation isn't there. It's like you need discipline more than you need motivation, because motivation comes and goes. Discipline is always there.
Yeah.
I love it. This was so good. Hashtag required listening. Tom wants me to make sure we say that because it's true. This is going to be required listening for all our medical device candidates and candidates in other industries. This was such a great conversation. Joelle, thank you so much for giving us the time today. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you, JR. I mean, honestly, I love nothing more than to be able to give back to, athletics or my athletic career. So just any way that I can kind of pass on some knowledge to those athletes out there and veterans. Of course, my husband's a veteran too, that are aspiring salespeople. I appreciate you to allow me to do this. So thank you.
I love it. First you learn, then you earn, then you return. Thank you for returning the favor, Joelle.
Thank you.
This wraps up this episode of Merchants of Change. If you enjoyed this episode, the most meaningful way to say thanks is to submit a review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're interested in working with us, please come find us at www.shiftgroup.io.